Well, hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Ty Woods.
What's up, family? And this is Chris Woods, and you are tuned into
Love and Entrepreneurship.
So, last week, man, how many people remember what last week's topic was? Well, I'm hoping you remember, what the topic was. So, since you remember and you was here, you want to tell what last week's topic was? What were we talking about?
Last week, we talked about love.
L-O-V.
The love languages and how we define what those love languages are. So, we talked about the 5 love languages, which are physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts.
Did you cheat sheet?
My cheat sheet. Acts of service and quality time. And if you did not see last week's episode, go back into our page and look at the episode last week. We go into depth about those 5 love languages. We truly think that you will get a lot out of it if you are in a relationship or you are seeking to be in a relationship, because it's actually something that you're going to use across the board. All right. Today we're going to talk about the flip side. We're going to talk about the love busters. So we talked about the love languages. So today we're going to talk about the love busters. So what is the love busters? What are love busters?
So love busters are things that annoy your spouse, your significant other. Those are things that kind of throw you off track, and it's like, man, this person is doing this same thing over and over. And I see you go live on yours too. So those are things that kind of throw you off or throw you to the side. Tuning in on a different side. So here are some potential love busters, and I'm trying to share this on other platforms, other sites as we get going. So love busters are, again, things that annoy you or your spouse, annoy that person, significant other that you're dealing with, and they boil down to selfish demands, disrespectful judgments, angry outbursts, annoying habits, independent behavior, and dishonesty. Those are love busters. And if you know anything, if you've been in a relationship for any amount of time, then you know that those things are throwing you off track, and you like, man. And you got a little bit of an echo going on, and she tries to share what's going on.
Okay.
So those love busters are generally things that come in a relationship and that are causing you friction in that relationship. So for my wife, she's going to say one of my annoying habits is what?
Why you just what? Okay.
So here's what she's going to say.
So
go ahead.
So he's telling you that an annoying habit is one of the love busters that I have for him, but it doesn't bother me anymore, but it used to, and that's like when he suck his teeth. Like he's just like, it's always like it's some meat stuck in his teeth somewhere. So it's like, and at first I used to be like, what in the world? But when he kept doing it, I used to be like, oh my gosh, that is so annoying. And eventually, I used to just like get flat out mad about it when he did it, because I was truly annoyed. So, annoying habits is one love buster, and they can get very in depth. Now, we are taking this information directly from a book called Love Busters, written by Dr. Willard Harley Jr., and this is a very, very, very good love busters. There we go. Plug. We don't get anything for it. But it's a really good way to kind of identify what the problems are in your relationship, because the moment you start identifying those problems, then you can start working on them. But until you identify them, then you're going to be thinking this is just, just you or just them. Okay, so let's back up. Before we start talking about the love busters, you got to understand that love is like a bank. Love is like a bank. Inside of a bank, there is money, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Okay, so you have two transactions. You have debits and you have credits, right? So this is an accounting firm. So let's just say you have money that you deposit and you have withdrawals. Deposits, every time you would deposit, then your bank account goes up. Every time you withdraw, then your bank account goes down. So love is just like a bank account. When you make deposits, your bank account goes up, and when you make withdrawals, your bank account goes down until you're in the negative and you are overdraft. And this is when you come to the point where you say, I'm fed up. And what happens when your bank account stays overdraft too long? The bank closes your account. And that's when you start talking about divorce, splitting up, and what we say in California, and woo-de-woo-de-woo. So, we're going to talk about the withdrawals. So last week we talked about the deposits. So that's why I want you to go back and look at the last week's video as we talk about love deposits. Today we're going to focus only on withdrawals, because these withdrawals, I promise you, if you do even one of these on a continuous basis, you cannot say, I did not know, because Ty told you so. And now you can go back and say, well, I did know. I did know that my annoying habits was a love withdrawal, and now I'm actually I'm gonna do things to reverse that so I can start making some deposits. Okay. So we talked about the first withdrawal, which is annoying habits. The second way that we withdraw is independent behavior. Now we're gonna park here for a minute.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back over, for those who just joining in, I'm gonna go back over what those love busters are again, and then she's gonna talk about the individual of kind of going into what they were or what they are. So selfish demands, disrespectful judgments, angry outbursts, annoying habits, independent behavior, and dishonesty. So those are all love busters.
Okay, so the love busters are divided into it's two categories. The first category is love busters that I do, and the second category is love busters that you do. So we just talked about annoying habits. So these are things that I do that can annoy my partner to the point where I'm withdrawing love from their bank account. Okay? So annoying habits is one of them. Independent behavior is the second one. These are things that I do that will withdraw out of my partner's bank account. Now, independent behavior is exactly what it sounds like. This is when you are making decisions independent from your spouse or significant other. This is something like opening up bank accounts, buying major purchases, making major purchase decisions.
Yeah.
Going out with friends and things like that your partner never knew about.
Right. You didn't say nothing about it. They're like, who is Frank?
Making whole vacation plans, like to go by yourself.
Right.
Independent behavior. So the definition, the single definition for independent behavior is a person who is married or in a committed relationship who is making decisions as if there is no one else to consider. So if you have that situation going on, then you need to know if you are the person that's making the independent behavior decisions, you are withdrawing. You are withdrawing and you need to stop.
You went in mama mode.
I went into mama mode.
You did.
Because this is not the way that you were designed to live. You were designed to live in a relationship where you are a partnership and not a relationship where you are in a dictatorship.
Right. And see, it's many times we do that because we're single, and then when you're single, of course you can go where you want.
Right.
You don't have to check in with nobody. You buy what you want, but when you get in a relationship, when you get married and things like that, then you have to consider that other person because it affects them at some point.
Right. So at this point, if you are the one who is making the independent choices, then the first thing that you have to do is stop to consider what the other person may think or feel if you make this decision independently. Second of all, if you are the person who is being on the opposite side, you need to make it vocal and known that the decisions this person is making is not only affecting you and your feelings, but it's also affecting other areas in your life. Like it could be your finances. It could be your home, your family life, your love life, your romantic life. So I need for you to also be vocal as well. Okay? So that's the second area of Love Busters that is directly focused on what I do. The third one is dishonesty. So dishonesty is exactly what it is, exactly what it sounds like. This is something that I do to the other person. If I am dishonest and that other person finds out, I have now withdrawn love from their bank. And the more you're dishonest, the more you withdraw. And then that's when you come to the point where that person says, well, I just can't trust you.
Right. And here's the thing with dishonesty. A lot of times we look at the major things like, of course, that person is cheating and maybe they're hiding money and things like that. But that dishonesty can be even small things of that person. If my wife asked me, hey, did you take out the trash? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I did that already. But the trash is still overflowing. Well, guess what? I just made a withdrawal. And so the next time she asks me something in regards to doing something in the household, she's going to wonder whether or not I'm going to be honest about that. And so those are still love busters of being dishonest.
You hit the nail right on the head. Okay, so we talked about the first three. These are things that I do. Not me personally, but I'm just saying you got things that I do and things that we can do to each other. So this one that I am focusing on right now is dishonesty, but we just talked about annoying habits, independent behavior, dishonesty. These three are things that you can do, that withdraws love out of the love bank. Now, we're going to get to the other three. These three are things that you do to each other. Things that you do to each other that withdraw out of the love bank. Now, this can also be one-sided as well, especially if depending on personality type. Mm-hmm. But this is a very, very serious. This side is very serious, even though the other side is very serious as well. Things can get pretty ugly with dishonesty. And independent behavior, but annoying habits seem like, can I get around that? Yeah, you can get around some annoying habits. Some annoying habits you knew before you got married, so you had a choice, But the ones we're about to talk about are abusive in nature. And before I talk about these, I want you to know that the moment you hear anything that is resembling anything in your relationship, I want you to write down the number that we'll give you at the end, and it's an abusive situation, and you need to get out. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is angry outbursts. So this is who wants to live with a ticking time bomb. Every time I walk around on eggshells, I have to walk around on eggshells because I don't want to get him mad. I don't want to get her mad.
Right.
I remember there was a time when you used to walk around on eggshells with me.
Yeah, that was just last week. Yeah. So angry outbursts can really affect your communication and how you respond or react to your spouse or your loved one, because that person may feel like I can't come to them without them shouting something out or being aggressive towards me. So it's like, hey, what you mean did I do what? And that person can feel like, you know what, I'm just not going to communicate with them. I'm just not going to open up. I'm not going to share my feelings and my emotions. And then when that person doesn't do that, the person can also still get offended and say, well, why don't you open up with me? Why don't you share how you really feel? Well, really, because I don't feel like I can talk to you. I don't feel like I can communicate with you. So angry outbursts can really affect how you interact together.
I know that for some people, the way that you were raised has a very significant impact on the way that you communicate, because you saw your mom and dad argue out things and hit each other and fight, and I remember somebody telling me once before that you are not in a real relationship unless you arguing every day.
Yeah.
You are not in a real relationship if you don't argue every day.
What do you
and
mean?
I was like,
what do you mean y'all
what?
don't argue?
I said, no, Chris and I don't argue. They was like, you're not in no real relationship.
What do you mean you don't
What
argue?
do you mean you don't argue? Everybody argues.
That's not realistic.
That's not realistic. I said, well, I guess we're not realistic because we've realized that the way to solve a problem is not through cussing each other out. And guess what? We have never seen anyone solve a problem cussing each other out. Yeah. So since we haven't seen that happen, then we're not going to mimic that. We've seen the opposite. We've seen that once you start arguing in that form or fashion, it usually escalates to something else, and now you got a different problem. So instead, we made a decision early on in our relationship that we was not going to communicate in that fashion, and we haven't, and we don't. So yes, we don't argue. Do we have disagreements? Of course we do. Right. Of course we do. But that doesn't mean that I need to cuss them out and yell at them and scream at them. I don't have to do that. So we have made a choice not to communicate that way, and you can make that same choice. But if you're gonna live with you're gonna live with somebody who
you said it right,
a dictator. Angry outburst. We're gonna talk about dictators in a minute. If you're gonna live with somebody who gets angry after every single thing you say, every time you say something, you walking on eggshells, wondering if that person's gonna get mad or not.
Right.
That's not a healthy relationship, babe.
Right.
And I want you to know that there is something better out there. So I want everybody to be aware that there are options. You are not stuck. Okay?
Right. And a lot of times that angry outbursts are rooted in one of the other love busters. Many times you'll find it is selfish demands. When that person is not getting what they want, they're feeling like, look, I'm angry because you're not giving me exactly what I need out of the relationship at the time. And so I always tell people, look, if you feel in that type of way, you might have to step away for a moment. You might have to go to another room. If you feel like you have angry outbursts, you may need to take a time out. You may need to go for a walk, whatever you need to do in order to calm down, to come back to that situation, because that situation is not going to get resolved with both of you going back and forth. It just doesn't happen that way. So you're going to automatically shut down. One person's going to shut down, or one person's going to explode, and then the next thing you know, the police are involved.
Right. So it should never get to that point. And if you feel like that's a healthy, loving relationship, then now you got to look introspectively and find out what is going on with me to make me feel like this is a healthy relationship for me to be in. Now you got to look inward, yeah. and that is something that is something you're going to have to deal with between you and God. All right. The next one, I'm just going to jump right in. Disrespectful judgments. Now, who wants to live with a critic? Who wants to live with a critic? You ever watch those movie critics, and every time you're like, "Oh, that movie was good." No, it wasn't. Well, what was bad about it? Well, I didn't like the way that person talked. I didn't like the way that person walked, or I didn't like the. I mean, it's just disrespectful judgments. But criticism is just one of the forms of disrespectful judgments. Another disrespectful judgment is sarcasm. Sarcasm. So, I mean, who wants to be walking in the house and you like, hey babe, how was work? How do you think work went?
That's a big one.
Well, dang. I was just asking how work went.
You should know how work went. It's work.
Right. Now you like, okay, I guess I'm just not going to ask you how work was because you're going to get all nasty with me. I'm just trying to be nice to you. Or we're talking about a critic, somebody who's always criticizing you. That's a very horrible place to be. You came in the house and you spent all this time cooking dinner. You spent all this time cooking dinner, and then they sit down at the table and you eat. You like, oh, how does it taste? My mama could have made it better. Like, well, you need to go to your mama's house then.
Right, you're right. So I want to read what a part of what disrespectful judgments can look like. This can occur when one spouse tries to impose a system of values and belief on the other. When a husband tries to force his view on his wife, he's just asking for trouble. When a wife assumes that her views are right and her husband's are woefully misguided and tells him so, she enters into a minefield. So basically, when you feel like I'm right and you need to get on track to what my viewpoint is, then that's also a disrespectful judgment.
Right. So that's what I mean by like it's a form of criticism. It's a form of criticism because you want your way. You want things to be your way or else.
Yeah.
So it needs to be cooked this way, like my mama.
Like mama.
Or I don't want to eat it. It needs to be this system or else. And who wants to be in a house where everything is this or else? This or else. Nobody wants to be in a house like that. I mean, even some people, you got some people who are not religious and some people who are religious, and you say, well, you going to go to church with me or else. Or you not going to go to church or else. That's disrespectful judgments. Now you are forcing your way of doing things. You're forcing your way of doing things onto them. Now, I know when there are children involved, you compromise in certain things because you might say, well, I might not agree with this, hopefully, but it's not going to necessarily be detriment to my health or anybody else's health, so we'll go ahead and do it this time. But if it's continuously forceful, I'm forcing my will on you, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, you might as well say, I'm in a house with a dictator.
Yeah, because that's exactly how you're going to feel. Like somebody's dictating what you should do next. Yep.
So this slide, the last one, is selfish demands. This is I didn't save the best for last, but the selfish demands have always been something that kind of creep up in even our relationship, and it creeps up in a lot of relationships. This is probably the one that you will struggle with the most because there are going to be times when you want your way or they're going to want their way and no one wants to compromise. So selfish demands is exactly what it is. You have your way, your selfish demands means it only benefits you.
Yeah.
It only benefits you. So if you got the if I put the example out there and say, I want my husband to be a certain, like, when I say he wants me to be a certain weight, and he says, I need you to get to this particular number so that I can look good. Now I'm sitting here like, well, what in the world? You know, there's a lot of people that do that.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you what a selfish demand will look like. It's a demand that carries out a punishment.
The threat of punishment.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, I want the power, so.
And if you refuse me, you're going to regret it.
You're going to regret it. Yep. In other words, you going to dislike what comes next. So you can put yourself in a situation where that person feels threatened to even do anything.
You know what? I know for some wives, they do this in a way that is very manipulative, and I can tell you that
if you don't do this, you ain't getting none.
Yep. I was about to say that. I can tell you that they use those cookies.
Cookie lockdown.
They use those cookies. They use those cookies a lot, and they were like, "Okay, if you don't go pick up my mother from the airport, you ain't getting none tonight." Well, dang, I don't have no gas. I just told you I ain't got no gas. Well, you gonna have to make it work. You know, if you don't do this, then you gonna do this. And now you're talking about something. Now, I mean, I just gave that example as like a funny example, but there's some selfish demands that people put on each other that is very, very unreasonable. Mm-hmm. Very unreasonable. So you got to ask yourself, are my demands meeting the needs of the other person as well? So if I'm asking him to pick up my mother from the airport, can I offer him something in return? Can I say, well, hey, I'll fill your gas tank up for the week if you go get my mom? Or, hey, how about I allow your guys to come on over, or you got to have a guys' night out.
Right.
A guys' night out. And I watch the kids. You have a guys' night out if you're going to pick up my mom. You know, there's some things that he wants as well that, you know, you can kind of throw things back. I mean, sometimes you may not have nothing to give right then and there, but you don't have to. So the key to selfish demands is the threat of a punishment.
Right, because you want to keep power or control. So we do have a question. The question is, can a woman do anything to help the other person act as a team?
So that would be called witchcraft. You can't help anyone act any way. You can only enforce your own actions, and you can encourage them to learn more about these tactics. But at the end of the day, that person is an adult, and they're going to do what they want to do, and it is no way you can get them to do anything. But if you're with a person who is honest and reasonable, they will do what they need to do, and especially if they really want to be with you, they will do what they need to do in order to make their relationship better.
Right, and I think the key in that is definitely communicating with that person, but you have to do it in a safe environment.
Right.
You can't do it in the heat of the argument or the disagreement.
Right.
You might have to come back a day later or a couple days later, and then sit down. Something that we try to practice doing is we sit down and we talk about, hey babe, you know, the time when you did X, Y, Z, you know, that made me feel like this. And because you did that, you know, I would love for you to kind of work on that situation.
Right. So at the end of the day, we can only take the tools that we're learning from these podcasts and use it and apply them ourselves, and pray that the other partner finds, or you can share. You can say, hey babe, look, I listened to this podcast. I think it's really great. Why don't you listen to it with me, and we can talk about it at the end. That would be a great conversation tool. But you can use this as a way to build your bond together and talk about, hey, these Love Busters, we have an operation in our relationship. But we can make these changes, and I really do believe that our relationship can be stronger as a result. And when you do that, you'll find that your relationship will be 10 times better than what you thought it was, and it will be more healthier. Well, that's it. That's our time. That's our time. But
Man,
before
we just getting started.
I know. Before we leave, we have some homework for you all. Look at the video again and just identify what the love busters are in your relationship first. Tune in next Thursday. Well, not Thursday. What day is this? Tune in next Sunday. Tune in next Sunday at 8:15 p.m. where we'll talk about resolving conflicts in a relationship, and then we'll jump right back to entrepreneurship the following week. I know you guys are eager to hear what we have to say about business and relationships. So with all that, if you have any questions, please make sure you send us a inbox message. You can always DM us, or you can post in this chat here. You can also contact us through loveandentrepreneurship.com, and we will be happy to answer your questions.
Yeah. And so I definitely want you guys to stay connected to what we're doing. Definitely go to Love Entrepreneurship website. It's loveandentrepreneurship.com. You can ask questions within there. Very responsive to the questions. Again, we are going to be talking more about business, but also you guys had some homework a couple weeks ago about actually starting multiple streams of income. I gave you a few ways of how to start multiple streams of income.
Did y'all do that?
And you guys are supposed to chime in and let me know how much money you made. I gave you a few.
Oh, they didn't do it.
They didn't do it.
Nope, they still broke.
All right, so this is what I need you to do. I need you to go to wherever you buy your books online and buy my book.
Multiple Streams in the Compact Guide to Multiple Streams of Income by Chris A. Woods.
Yep.
Go on and invest $5. $5. And you will make that back. Promise you.
If you don't make $5, you didn't apply not one thing I said.
You didn't imply nothing. You didn't imply nothing. All right, guys. That's it. That's our time. Until next time, I'm Ty Woods.
I'm Chris Woods.
And we always mess up our closing. And this is Love and Entrepreneurship. See y'all next week. Bye.